Hello YouTube. Today we're going to have a look at RAF Church Fenton through the medium of Lockheed Martin's prepared version 3. Church Fenton is located in Yorkshire, just 9 miles south of York and 14 miles east of Leeds. About 10 miles south of the airfield are a string of power stations that provide a very distinctive navigation feature. As we go through the video, we will look at these 5 areas, and in particular the AI Flight Planner software. These are the specs of the PC being used for those that are interested in such things. And this is the view of the real airfield layout taken from the south. And here we see the UK 2000 representation of the airfield. And in this slide we get an idea of what is possible when using AI Flight Planner to populate an airfield. This is what the main gate looked like when I drove through to begin my flying training in the 1970s. This Spitfire Mark 5B was the gate guardian at the time. And this motley bunch were the flying instructors. My man is 5th from the right, Dave Reason. Flying training was conducted in the de Havilland Chipmunk, and here is one parked outside 3 hangar. I started training in December, and this shot shows the typical weather conditions in the area at that time. Here is a more recent shot of a Grob tutor with the distinctive power stations in the background. Let's have a look first at a real chipmunk, courtesy of SKRM Productions. Take note of the sound, shape and colours of the chipmunk, and then we will then compare it to the software version. Forward view is limited in the chipmunk, so you have to swing the nose from left to right in order to get an idea of what's ahead of you. See, the windsock is pretty much straight out. That gives you an indication of the wind speed and direction. When it's straight out, you know it's above 15 knots. So onto the software version in Lockheed Martin's prepared version 3. And we'll also be looking at the UK 2000 airfield scenery and Orbex's FTX, plus of course the Just Flight de Havilland Chipmunk. So here we are at Fenton, outside Hangar 1. You can see to the left of me a Tucano. They didn't actually arrive in the Air Force until about 1989. And to the right of me there's a Jet Provost T3. They were based at Fenton, but not in my time. I actually flew the Provost at RAF Leeming. So apart from the aircraft I'm flying, all of the other aircraft have been populated into the scenery through the AI flight planner software. So they're all behaving as traffic. The other chipmunks you can see were developed by Rick Piper using Flight Sim development kit. They were actually designed for Flight Sim 2004, but they have been tweaked to work in FSX and prepared. Because they're fully flying versions, not AI, they do take up a bit more space in terms of pixel density. Now normally that would have an impact on your frame rate. So we'll be looking to see if that does impact our frame rate in version 3 of Prepared. Torque of the engine pulls the nose of the aircraft to the right, so you have to counter that with left rudder. Orbeck scenery looks pretty convincing. As we swing around to the south, we start to see the power stations in the distance. Here's the first group, which would be Drax. Second group is Egbra. Further to the west we can just see Ferry Bridge. Airfield on the nose there is Sherburn. Now just a civil flying club. Okay, we'll park company into the circuit and make an approach. The weather in the simulator is courtesy of Active Sky Next. And here we're approaching 060. So we would have checked mixture, fuel, flaps, harness, hood, brakes. Flaps now set for landing. The tail dragger, you pretty much have to stall it onto the runway. So here we are, another rainy day in Yorkshire. And here are some more of the Flight Sim Design Studio chipmunks. Some more of the software that's been used. The Airfield Construction Group provides some very useful airfields, as do Military Airworks. In fact, you can get some aircraft from Military Airworks, also from AVSIM. The trick is finding the decent AI aircraft to populate your airfields with. So you do have to do a bit of searching to get the right ones. Quite a big extensive library in flightsim.com. When you locate the aircraft and download them, then you'll put them into your SimObjects Airplanes folder, and then use AI Flight Planner, which happens to be freeware, to position your aircraft on the relevant airfield. So here we can see how it actually works. So you decide which aircraft you want to use from your airplane folder. Here we're using version 3 of Prepared. So it'll list all of the different textures of the aircraft. We select the ones we want to create a flight plan on. Here I'm selecting some Canberras. They then populate the aircraft list, and we'll use these in our flight plans. So we select the particular one we want to create the first flight plan with. Then start a new flight plan. Give it a registration. decide whether it's going to be IFR or VFR, how frequently you want the flight to take place. So I'm doing a 2-hourly on visual flight references. Give it a flight number, say where you're flying from, in this case Church Fenton. What's your start time of the day? Midnight. Where are you flying to? Here we're just going back to Church Fenton. Basically circuits. And what flight level you want to go at. It defaults to 21,000, so clearly you want to change that to 2,000. Then you do the return leg. All flight plans have 2 legs, outward and a return. Here again, we give it flight number 2, and once again Church Fenton to Church Fenton at 2,000 feet. So that's our first flight plan. We add it to the list, and then create the next flight plan. In this case, I'm creating a flight plan of 3 Canberras that will all be taking off and returning to Church Fenton. And in the time that they're not flying, then they will be on the ground in parking slots as basically static aircraft. But in this case, every 2 hours they will take off again, fly for about 25 minutes, and then land. Between your legs, the outbound and the inbound, it's always a good idea to make sure they've got enough time to do a turnaround. So I generally allow 15 minutes. Then we put the third Canberra in. Same procedure. Just increasing the flight numbers. And tweaking the flight level. Once the flight plan is compiled, you can actually copy the flight plan. So instead of 3, if I copied it once, I would then have 6 Canberras on the deck. So it's a quick way of populating an airfield. Once we're comfortable with our flight plan, then we need to compile it. And the first thing we have to do is figure out where we want to save the file. So it's going to be in prepared version 3. We give the traffic file a unique name, best to describe the aircraft type, how many of them there are in this particular flight, and the location, so Fenton. Put it in the scenery folder of your add-on scenery. And compile it into there. So the full flight plan's now gone in, and when you start the simulator, those aircraft would be present on the airfield of your choice. So you can now close that program, and this is what those Canberras look like. I've doubled the size, so there's 6 of them there on the flight line. And of course you can put whatever aircraft you want. So here's some Javelins. And a Vampire F3 and a Meteor F8. Those aircraft are by Robert Richardson. Here we've got Hawker Hunter by Vertavia. And now we'll look at a Vertavia Hind, Mi-24D Hind of the Polish Air Force. So lifting off from Fenton, the idea here is to do a stress test on the version 3 software and just see if we can make it fall over when we fly low and fast. So ideally everything will be smooth. And no crashing to desktop. End of the runway, I've got a static Buccaneer. So the colours are good, the scenery's good, weather's good. Here's one of John Young's Canberras. Heading south again from the airfield. And we see the chain of power stations again. Drax, Eggborough, Ferrybridge. Down over the Orbeck scenery. And over to the UK 2000 Airfield scenery. You see a John Young Harrier. Now I'll just slow down and land in the helicopter slot. Very robust, these hinds. So that was a pretty good stress test, and version 3 working pretty well. Church Fenton, unfortunately, is no longer a military airfield. It's been sold, and it's now Leeds East Airport. So you can see that the UK 2000 scenery is pretty good when enhanced, especially with Orbex, and that flight planner software was very useful. Here's the credits. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.